These detention basins turn into vernal pools in the rainy season. We've had 2 inches of rain or so, and you can see everything is full up. Now the design isn't exactly where it needs to be, but you can also see the large amount of water that drains from the springs that are here. So there's a spring right there that stays wet year round, and it drains out that pipe in the center. And that spring is because we are so far below grade coming off of Mulberry that there's a lot of water in the ground. So I'll get springs in my driveway, and then we have these built out here that accumulate water. Now they can have gravel put in them, or they can be stabilized with slopes and have French drains underneath it. But these areas catch, spread, and slow down water before it gets to the creek out in the woods. So typically they'll stay brown for a little bit. That sediment will come out. The water level will drop 3 to 4 inches by seepage and evaporation. And ultimately, we're keeping all that mud and silt from getting into the creek back there. Now, I said they turn into vernal ponds. By the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, because a lot of frogs will lay eggs in there in the wet season. They'll hatch out. And then we have a lot of amphibians, we have dragonflies, we have frogs. There are near zero mosquitoes because of the design, but also because it's a habitat more than anything else. It wasn't meant to be a habitat. It was meant to be detention basins to reduce the amount of water flow into the creeks, which is required by the Forestry Department, which is required by the EPA, which is required by a lot of different agencies. But the way it functions, and there's some cleanup that can be done. A lot of these drains, it's not supposed to pool up at the top here. But a lot of these drains and things could be better implemented. But overall, the system works as designed, and it's 4 or 5 years in the making. The tall grass around the outside has a lot of bird habitat. You can hear frogs at night. You can hear the birds during the day, but nothing makes it to the creek. So it gets to the creek slow and steady, but doesn't flood the creek when you have almost an acre of surface area. I forgot how many feet the roof line is. And then also the water drains from this property here, the property I'm standing at, and then the property on the other side. So there are 3 properties going into here. Before, this was a giant ditch with trees in it, and those trees were taken down. Now ideally, trees would return, and then we would have a ramp going from the top to the bottom with a better French drain system or something to bring that water down a little bit cleaner, a little bit slower. Initially, that detention basin there was meant to go all the way across, but they didn't want to take down their fence. And a very large detention basin would have water in it periodically, but would dry out faster because the water would be more shallow. And then that area could be mowed, so the bottom of the basin could be mowed. However, in the center of the frame here, there is a sewer connect. And so to bridge the sewer all the way over here where this neighbor has to pump their sewage up the hill, the engineer recommended like a land bridge. And so later, additional soil could be brought in, but they would have to cut into this area here. And so if they ever connect that sewer to the city sewer, they'll be able to do it through here, and additional dirt can be brought in. So this site has had a lot of problems from the city, a lot of pressure from the city, primarily because they don't understand the design. However, when challenged, the design is correct. It's the way it needs to be. Now, I would have liked to have more trees out there, because trees are going to increase stabilization. Trees are going to give us more biomass accumulation. And trees are also going to help us restore this to a forest area, where basically there would be trees on slope, and then you'd be able to drive a riding lawnmower or zero turn down to do mowing if you desired. Otherwise, you would allow everything to grow back like what they're doing behind their house there. They're just simply letting the grass grow, and trees recover after years of mowing it. But you can see the tall grass behind that neighbor's house, and I don't know why they have all those tubes still out there, but this tall grass just basically falls down in mats, and then new grass grows between it. And so we're sequestering carbon, we're managing erosion, we're handling stormwater runoff, Rather than piping this water directly into the creek, the water is impounded into detention basins. And from the detention basin, we get a lot of soakage. We also have 3 or 4 springs on this particular property that were there before we did the install. And these facilitate those springs, giving us deeper water for that 72 hours in the summer seasons, and then sometimes weeks in the winter seasons when there's a lot of rain. But that seepage, that soaking into the ground, the evaporation, all that together gives us a good habitat for amphibious creatures, gives us good habitat for small birds, give good habitat for those insects that eat mosquitoes. And so there it is. But as you'll see, there's running water here year round from the springs that are under these properties. And that can be a challenge. But you'll see as you go up the hill, it drains. So neighbors' water drains over here too. You can see their drains on this side. And then off the corner, there's still water that comes over the top. But overall, it is by design to slow and spread water so that the environment can get all that silt, all that discoloration down the bottom is silt. All that silt drains, and eventually these will stay dry most of the year, except for in the rainy season where they're actually working. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Ask your questions at www.prosperityhomestead.org, where we help you start your homestead fast. We help you solve land problems and ultimately increase the value of your property.